Welcome, everyone. Today, we're starting our unit on advanced analytics and survey design. This lecture will introduce the fundamentals of how surveys function and within the analytics, how to design them effectively, and why strong survey design is critical for collecting accurate and meaningful data. In this section, we focus specifically on survey design, what surveys are, why we use them, and the fundamental principles that guide good survey construction. In business, surveys are one of the most powerful tools for gathering structured information from customers, employees, and stakeholders. Companies use surveys to understand satisfaction, preferences, behaviors, and pain points. The insights from surveys help support the decision making, strategy development, and performance evaluation. Surveys serve several key purposes. They help us describe patterns, understand how things are related, explain those relationships, and sometimes even influence decisions or behavior. Designing with a clear purpose ensures that our survey is focused and effective. To define the purpose of your survey, ask yourself a few simple questions. What exactly am I trying to achieve? What do I want to know? Why does this information matter? And is a survey even the right method to answer this question? Here is an example. Imagine you're a media company exploring whether expanding from television to internet streaming is profitable. Your survey's purpose would be to understand viewer interest, subscription willingness, and online habits. In this example, your main question might be, are customers interested in subscribing to an internet-based service? Your entire survey design would revolve around collecting the information needed to answer that question. So it depends on your goal and your main question. This example illustrates how a clearly defined purpose directs your survey structure, the type of questions you ask, and the population you target. So, this is what you should define when you are starting to design your survey. Surveys can generally be divided into self-administered surveys and administered surveys. Each type has advantages depending on your goals, budgets, and audience. Self-administered surveys are completed independently by respondents. These are cost-effective, easy to distribute, and allow anonymity, which often leads to more honest feedback. Administered surveys, on the other hand, involve an interviewer, either in person, by phone, or through video. These allow clarification and more detailed responses, but can be more time consuming and introduce interviewer bias. So here you see a summary of both categories, self-administered versus interviewer-administered. Choosing between them depends heavily on your research question and resources. Okay, so you see for self-administered survey, you are gonna need resources like web, email, mail, and a handout. Also with administered surveys, you're going to need some phone, face-to-face, along with the handouts. So depending on the resources that you have, and depending on what your research question is, you can decide which one of these types of surveys to select. One major category of self-administered surveys includes web-based surveys and email surveys, which have become extremely popular due to their low cost and quick turnaround. So you collect everything through the web or through the email. Web and email surveys are some of the easiest to implement. They allow automated collection, quick response times, and easy integration with analytics tools. Platforms like Google Forms and SurveyMonkey are commonly used. But you know that through the UWL, we also have access to Qualtrics that you can use and share the link through the web and through the emails. These tools also allow researchers to design forms, distribute them widely, and analyze results instantly. They're especially useful when targeting online or tech-savvy populations. Mail surveys operate similarly to email surveys, but use physical mailing. They reach population that may not be online, but they are more expensive and tend to have lower response rates. Phone surveys often provide faster responses since participants answer immediately. However, many people screen unknown calls or hang up quickly, making data collection slower in practice. And the face-to-face surveys allow the interviewer and respondent to read read the facial expressions and tone. So this often increases understanding, but can introduce some bias when you are hearing them, when you are seeing their faces. As an interviewer, this may introduce bias. These can now also be done virtually through platforms like Zoom, Teams, and such tools. And here you see the summary of the broader categories, again, reinforcing the distinction between self-administered and interviewer-administered option. So depending on the resources that you have, if you have enough resources for doing any of these, you will decide to go with one of these survey types, depending on the resources and budget that you have. Some surveys use a combination of the methods. For example, you may hand out paper surveys while being physically available to answer questions. This hybrid method improves clarity but limits the reach to whoever is physically present. When choosing a survey type, consider your target audience, your goals, and your budget, and the level of the data quality that you need. Some methods collect rich, detailed data, but require more time and money, just like the physical um, uh, mailing costs and etc. Survey questions come in two main types: open-ended and closed-ended. Open-ended questions collect qualitative insights, while closed-ended questions collect structured, easy to analyze data. While open-ended questions allow respondents to answer in their own words, they reveal deeper insights, new ideas, and richer details. However, they are more time consuming to analyze and may reduce response rate. Closed-end questions, on the other hand, are easier for respondents, easier to analyze statistically, and allow for more consistent responses. However, they limit the participants to predetermined options and may miss the nuances in the responses. For example, when you are asking a closed-end questions, how satisfied you are, very satisfied, slightly satisfied, neutral, at all, like never being satisfied. So the difference between those two categories could be different from person to person. So you are missing the nuances over there in the closed-end question. But if you have open-end questions, you allow those nuances to enter to the measurements and insights. However, they are more time consuming to analyze. It is harder to not harder, but it is time consuming to analyze the open-ended questions responses, and may reduce the response rate as well, because people are more it is easier for people to select a choice rather than just write a complete answer based on their own ideas and opinions. Some questions blend both styles, offering preset options along with an other field where respondents can elaborate. These provide structured data while still allowing additional insight. Multiple choice questions are the most common form of closed-ended questions. They provide clear categories and are simple to analyze. Dichotomous questions offer only two response options, such as yes, no, or agree, disagree. They are useful to straightforward categorical decisions. And we learned about these types of the variables that we could create in our analyses for two categories. Filter or contingency questions direct respondents to different follow-up questions based on their answer, and this keeps surveys relevant and efficient. Scaled questions use numerical or descriptive scales to measure intensity, frequency, agreement, or satisfaction. And Likert scale measures, Likert scales measure attitudes, frequency, quality, and importance. They typically use 5 categories and are among the most widely used tools in survey designs. And slider scales allow more precision. Respondents move a marker along a continuum, and these are ideal for digital surveys and cross-language contexts. This slide that you see here reinforces the range of the closed questions, types of those questions that are available, and how each supports different data needs. So we could have survey objects, target audience, type of data needed, ease of analysis, survey length, and response time. And you have some examples for either of them. When choosing question types, consider the survey's objectives, the type of data needed, the audience, and the ease of analysis. Match the question format to the goal. It's also important to avoid bias, consider cultural differences, think about advice capability, and keep the survey short enough to maintain engagement. And when writing questions, focus on one issue per question. Avoid assumptions, avoid overly specific wording, and ensure the question does not force the respondent into a biased answer. You should not put the word in their mouth. You should design the question in a way that asks for their own opinion, not biasing their answer. Be precise, define ambiguous terms, and avoid confusing language. Respondents interpret words differently, so clarity ensures more accurate data. So, and you know that the quality of the data, the accuracy of data, is going to help you to have a good quality analysis as well. So it is important when you are designing the surveys, consider all of these points. Keep questions short and straightforward. Long, complex questions discourage participants and increase misunderstanding. Split the long questions into smaller ones if needed. Avoid leading questions or emotionally charged wording. Your goal is neutrality, neutrality, neutrality. So respondents answer honestly and without influence. Every survey needs a structured introduction. It should explain who is conducting the survey, the purpose, confidentiality, voluntary participation, and estimated time to complete. Start with general questions and move to more specific ones. Ask factual questions before subjective ones, and ensure the order doesn't influence how respondents interpret later questions. End your survey by thanking participants, reminding them of confidentiality, and providing contact information. If incentives are offered, give instructions for how participants can receive those incentives, financial and non-financial incentives. And there are the key references um, at the end of these slides. If you need to further analyze and further dig into the details of survey designs and questions, make sure to check these references.